Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there, and if you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and appreciate you stopping by the channel. So it's boots on the ground today for the Pat Riley end-of-season press conference, much anticipated, as Pat Riley speaking for the first time since the infamous keep your mouth shut comments and not giving Jimmy Butler the extension. And if you think Pat Riley was going to apologize or walk any of that back, he did not. Pat Riley did not walk any of that back. He, in fact, said, he said, I'm not going to apologize for a contract extension, and I don't think I should. It's done. It's over, and I wish him well. And he said, good luck to him, to Jimmy Butler, and I hope somewhere in his heart he wishes us well, too. I don't know if that's the case. I don't think that's that. Something tells me that's not the case right now, deep down. I don't know. But Pat Riley, actually, I thought, I think Pat Riley... The Jimmy thing, he wanted to try and bury it. He did. But then it did get a little bit stirred up again. And he actually made the point where he goes, what happened with Jimmy was, as ugly as it was, he doesn't want anyone to think that he didn't appreciate it. He loves the guy, loves the fun. But he said one of the things that... he said on being an alpha, he says, one thing people don't realize is Jimmy's an alpha, I'm an alpha. And, sometimes that doesn't work. And that was in relation to a question about the Heat needing somebody next to Bam and Tyler. Are they a 1? Are they a 1A? Do they need somebody like that? And it was, it was something. It was definitely an interesting thing. Like, I think from the standpoint of, Jimmy Butler and all of this fiasco that was this year. He said he didn't really want to get into specifics of what happened in the middle of the year. But from my standpoint, he put on the idea that this whole thing, because a lot of scrutiny has come about the way the Heat do things, and I didn't even use the buzz term culture. He kind of went in that way. But my question to him was, in regards to, because he brought up narratives that, the Heat aren't good anymore. And he's like, and those narratives aren't true. And I was like, when you're in a Pat press conference to set things up, I'm in the back because I got my camera. It's where I always sit for Spo press conference when I'm back there. Sometimes I'm off to the side if it's not as crowded for like a player press conference. And I know I'm probably going to get one. I'm going to get one. But the guys are always great for helping it out. And, the writers are going to take care of their thing, and they touched on a lot of stuff. But the one place that I wanted to go originally, you go into these things, and Pat even made fun of this at one point. He's like, what, do you guys have a game plan? And you kind of do, because you don't know how many interactions you're going to get with him. And my actual question that I was going to go in was related to Eric Spoelstra and just kind of like where he thinks Spo is at, because he's had these times as a coach where, like, maybe, Pat thought about stepping away, or was there a change that needed to be made? And Pat did that. And it was really unsolicited, because he brought up this whole thing with Spo when asked about the offense. And I thought it was the most fascinating part of the press conference. More than the Jimmy Butler stuff, more than the star stuff, which we'll get into, we'll have time to, and the Tyler stuff and all that stuff. And honestly, I thought it was... For me, I thought it was the most fascinating thing from the Riley presser, because it was raw, it was real. And
for this group, because obviously it's just not enough.
Well, I think Coach, I haven't talked to him about it yet, because Eric has been doing this for 30 years, intensely as the video coordinator up to being my main assistant coach. 17 straight years of coaching. So he's been here for 30 years. Never took a year off. Never takes a break. He's had some issues in his life, personal issues. And I see the strain and stress on him like I've never seen it before. This takes a toll. And when I talk to him, the other day. He said he was going to Hawaii. I said, good, I'll see you in training camp then. But that's not going to happen. But he needs a break, and he needs time to reflect. He's the head coach. I mean, I could give him my playbook from 2006 or 7, but it's archaic, but it's not. But he'll figure this out. He knows we need to defend, and he needs to make whatever kind of changes he needs to make when it comes to the offense. And we'll talk about that. If he wants to listen to me, he will. If he doesn't, he has a lot of great people working for him.
Yeah, Spo has been through a lot personally. I know that a lot was made about the divorce, and that was a very public thing, and not here to really get into anybody's relationships, but they're not fun, I imagine, especially when it does make headlines, and how much Erik Spoelstra loves being in the headlines, which is 0.0. And then even, of course, he had the thing that went on with his son a couple of years ago with battling cancer. Erik Spoelstra has been through a lot, and I thought it was interesting that Pat brought it up, because this guy, has been dealing with this for the last 3 years, and maybe there was a point where, like, hey, this was a good escape, but maybe there's a point where it also, when things aren't going so good and everything feels like it's bubbling up and getting to you, it can take a toll. And I think everybody has been from the mindset, and I've been hard on Spo, from this offseason, and for Pat to put it out there like that, like, hey man, we can all see, like, this guy has been wearing it from what he's been going through this year. I think it does empathize the situation a little bit more, because this guy, I feel like, went from the bar none best coach in the league, and this was brought on by Tim Reynolds asking him about the offense. The creativity, the guy who's a step ahead, the guy who feels like he's always got a game plan, to now, hey, suffered your second career sweep, biggest margin of defeat in history, haven't won a championship in this many years. He wears all that. Even when people ask him about, like, championship teams, Spo will spit back, like, years, it was forever ago. What do you want to ask me about that for? And he said he needs a break. He needs time to reflect. He'll figure it out. He knows we need to defend first. He needs to make whatever kinds of changes he needs to make when he comes back to the offense. If he wants to listen to me, he will. If he doesn't, he has got a lot of great people working with him. For me, man, that was that was the realest thing of the press conference. Like, there's a lot of nuggets and acorns that are there through about running it back and all that. We'll get to a lot of that. But you think about all the things that Spo has been in through his personal life, and this team, quite frankly, over the last couple of years, been through a lot through their personal lives and whatnot. And that, before his departure included Jimmy too. And then you think about, like, when there's winning, it's a great escape. But if things aren't going so great, and then you have the personal stuff to go inside that, nobody wants to hear it because they make a lot of money. I get it. But I thought it was it was refreshing to acknowledge, like, hey, I felt like it was Pat saying, this guy is one of the greats, but even he has been dealing with a lot, and he's been wearing it. And he didn't say that it's affecting him, but I think it was implied that, like, hey, this probably was affecting his job. And last year he went to Paris for the Olympics and Team USA and didn't maybe necessarily get the break that he needed. And so now, we'll see what this ends up being. There was asked about the idea of a succession plan today with the team and where they're going to go. And he said, Spo's in great shape. He needs time to decompress. I feel great, and Spo is going to be fine. So, we always talk about the challenges that Pat will throw out in these press conferences. And I thought it was kind of just like, hey, man, like, we know maybe why you weren't at the peak and optimal level for you. You dealt with a lot. You dealt with a disgruntled star like we've never dealt with before. You tried to keep a team together, and also it's been a pretty crazy last few years for you. And so hopefully that does happen for Spo, and he does get that because, yeah, he's basically been at the grind of this for years. And, yeah, there's been down years and there's been years away, but, then you add, raising young kids in it, and then you gotta co-parent because it's not all under the same roof anymore and all that's like, damn, that's a lot. it is a lot. It's not nothing. I know we all have to deal with the stresses of life, but his decisions on a day-to-day basis are under a microscope more than others. And I certainly think that he took criticism, which was warranted this year. But I think the Godfather there putting a little bit of an explanation on it with all of this stuff that went on. But yeah, I liked that from Pat today. I liked the fact that we got our answer on Spo and where it was. My other thing that I was going to get into with it, so like that was the Spo thing was answered for me. Like I don't need to know about Spo. That for me, that question that was important because I knew that Jimmy stuff was going to get asked. I probably wasn't going to get in on that anyway. But that the Spo thing was asked, and so like I was going to go two ways with it. I was like, can you ask about Terry Rozier? Because like, oof. Or I wanted to get Pat's impression because Pat has really been, his ways have been under attack from punts. I think even watched another clip of Kendrick Perkins today, still criticizing him, which was kind of my whole philosophy. And Pat, this was the back and forth. You guys can gauge from it, but I decided to go with you talked about narratives. There's a narrative out there that your ways, the way you do things, that doesn't work anymore for today's player. And this is what he had to say.
You mentioned a little bit about the narratives that have been out there. One of them was a lot of former players, talking heads on television, saying that the Heat way doesn't necessarily work anymore, that today's player doesn't want that. What have you thought about some of those things thrown out there, and do you think that it still relates to today's player?
It doesn't relate to me or us. It's a narrative put out there on the part of other people that don't know what it's like inside here. Working behind the scenes, there's two ways to do it. You can work behind the scenes and put in the time, and you can work behind the scenes and put in the work. There's two different things in there. And so our culture has been the way it has been since I got here. And at least that's how I look at it. Has it been adjusted in some way, shape, or form? Yes. And you have to for this generational player and for the league. But no, I'm proud of the culture. I'm proud of the environment that we have created over the years for everybody here inside who really know it, and for the people outside who don't really know it but want to comment on it because it's fashionable to comment on it and criticize it. The hell with them. We got a great culture. It hasn't been crushed, and just because there was some issues this year that were not culture-oriented, they were player-oriented. I'm talking about the Butler situation, whatever you want. Our culture is the same, and it's a work culture. I believe in that statement. I know you're going to throw up if I say it. Hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, nastiest, disliked team in the league. About four of those things we weren't this year, and we have to adjust those. I'll never change my thoughts on that.
And I love it. I think it's like from Pat, he's like, the hell with them. They don't know. They don't know, dude. They don't know. We know it's not been good enough. He called the losses depressing. He called them humbling. He said they're not going to run it back. He said changes are needed. I think all those answers were that. But don't think that the Miami Heat is going to change his ways. And he said, quite frankly, also, he put out the point where he said that the culture, we have a great culture, and it hasn't been crushed. He says the issues this year weren't culture-oriented. They were player-oriented. Talking about the Butler situation. And he also, the mantra. He's like, we didn't live up to the mantra this year either. Right? We weren't the toughest, nastiest team. At least like we weren't that. So I definitely came away from today. Pat's not apologizing. Still pissed at Jimmy. Is a little hurt. I think hurt by the Jimmy thing. I think that definitely was the case, that like it got as bad as it did just over money. But it did, and they did, and I think that Pat not having a grasp of the good times, he's like, yeah, sometimes things go bad, and he said he would take the blame on it. But I definitely think that the fact that it ended the way that it did and there wasn't any respect after doing all those things, I think hurt him. Now, for the Jimmy Butler fans out there who are like, well, you should have known. You should have paid him. Well, I get it. I understand that perspective too, but I think that the fact that he was still acting like T-Wolves, Jimmy Butler, years later with a team that had accomplished more together, this idea that he completely carried everybody, nobody else, Bam didn't do anything, the Heat organization didn't do anything. It was all, even though it was all Jimmy. You know, I think a little bit, you could tell that stung. It still stung, Pat. It's not gone. Like, if you think he's in this, just because he got their ass kicked, you think if Pat's like remorseful over it? No, he's not. He's not remorseful over it. He is sticking to his guns on it, and he made that quite clear. He made that very, very clear with this Jimmy Butler thing, that he's not apologizing. And on the Key Round show, he's like, yeah, that's how I was coached. That's how I coach. You lose, you take your L, and you go beat it on the court the next year. There wasn't trolling back in the day. So I thought Pat handled all that stuff. Like, I really thought that he handled all that stuff quite well. And to the stuff on the retirement, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's happening. And it didn't feel like it was coming. Like, there wasn't a lot of hints. I was even asking people, well, you think any shot this is it? And people it's like, I don't think so. He still got it. And I thought that he did. I thought that he was on point today with a lot of stuff, with his roster builds, with the team, with the players. Again, I'm going to do more on like what acorns did he leave on the build. I'll do another video on that. But just as the accountability, like, will people be happy with his answers? That will they feel like he was grilled enough? Probably not. But I do think that the message was clear without it having to be hostile. The team knows it's not good enough. He knows it wasn't good enough. He's calling the series depressing. And yeah, the only thing that I probably, if I was to ask something, it'd be like, because my way that I was going to ask the Rozier thing, I don't even think I was going to be able to ask, like, do you regret making that? It's not, no one's going to say yes. But that was like the only thing I would say is there was a lot of big picture stuff. And the thing that sucks about Pat not speaking all the time is you would still like, hey, what do you think of Kalel? What do you think of Nikola Jovic? Do you think Andrew Wiggins is a good player? Do you think, like, these are the other things that could be. Oh, it was a fascinating thing that Ira asked a good question about the trade being not forward thinking enough, and that it was, just getting a 20th pick for this year, which, gave the Heat a little bit of a safety net just in case they didn't make the playoffs. But getting guys like Wiggins and Anderson and Davion, who's not even guaranteed to be back. And Pat said, like, we were locked into a team. Like, he only wanted to go to one team. And the only reason that didn't happen was because we couldn't trade with that team. So he made it known that the options were limited in what they could do and why they made that deal. But I thought that was an interesting thing of that. Like, hey, could they have bet more against the Warriors, like, down the road or something like that? So I think from his standpoint, very interesting presser. Hit on a lot of big picture stuff of where the organization is, but also has not lost his swagger, whether people are tired of it or not. Has not lost his confidence. Feels fully capable that the organization, he kept putting up the term retool 13 times. We've retooled. Every time we've had to make a pivot, we made a pivot. Like, this man is like, it was funny because he comes into the press conference and he asks people to raise their hands if they were born after when he came to the Miami Heat, which there were a handful of people. I am not one of them, but which makes you feel old. And I don't like that. But I do think it's an element of like, hey, don't you can count us out if you want to. And I know there's a lot of people who are right. There are a lot of people who are rightfully doubtful about the Miami Heat right now. I get it. Not saying those doubts aren't warranted. But this man has lost none of that. He has no doubts with that. So we'll get into more stuff from this thing. I got thoughts on the things that he had to say about Tyler, the aging stars and whatnot. But the drama of it, the Jimmy Butler stuff, it was. I definitely think that Pat Riley saying I'm an alpha, I'm sticking to my guns, I ain't apologizing, I don't feel bad about not giving the extension, and making it known that he wasn't okay with what Butler did. This is not something that he feels like was that he baited into. There could be debate on that. He did, and I thought that stuff kind of trickled out as the presser went on, because he even was like bringing up the Warriors too. It was like, they're elderly, they're old, but they're there for right now. So yeah, I think that there's definitely still some remnants of how hurt he is that the Jimmy thing ended the way that it did. But he's not backing down from it at all. Like, that was like, when you say I'm an alpha, people forget Jimmy's an alpha. I'm an alpha. You be like an 80-year-old saying to you, I'm an alpha. It's kind of gangster. It's like, okay, he is the mother godfather. Like, let's not forget.